My wife has been behaving strangely lately. She often stays late at work, explaining it by being very busy, and comes home in a suspiciously cheerful mood. She frequently doesn't bother to prepare dinner or lunch. There has been a noticeable irritability, arrogance, and moodiness in her character. Comparing her behavior, I decided that she was cheating on me. I was sure of it but needed proof. I drove to the office where she worked, parked the car discreetly, and waited. I didn't have to wait long. My wife soon emerged from the building, accompanied by her boss. They got into his car and headed towards a hotel. Of course, I followed them. They entered the hotel, and I followed them to the reception. It cost me $10,000 to find out which room they were in and where the windows faced. Fortunately, there was a talkative employee who gave me all the information for that amount. Learning that the room's windows faced the courtyard, which was very convenient, I drove around the building. There, I got out of the car and set up the drone, which I conveniently had in my trunk. Knowing the location of the window I needed, I directed the device towards it. At first, they acted like lovebirds, playing romantic, drinking champagne, eating fruits and chocolate, and having a pleasant conversation. This took them almost 40 minutes. Then the real actions began, culminating in bed. What my wife was involved in, I hadn't even seen in German adult films. I felt like vomiting from the disgust, but I didn't give up and recorded the entire process. Like in a real thriller, I watched as the old gnome entertained my own wife. When it was all over, I went home. Honestly, I don't remember how I drove or how I got home. There, I sat down and started thinking about what to do with all this wealth of information. Now I not only knew about the betrayal but also had recorded the entire process. My wife's boss is a well-known and influential person in our small town. He is almost always accompanied by security, except for rare occasions, like with my wife, for example. Therefore, I decided that going to him with this recording made no sense. I would simply be thrown out by his guards at best, or have my health ruined at worst. So, I took the recording and went to his wife's advertising agency. She greeted me quite friendly and offered me a cup of coffee. At first glance, I noticed that she was very effective and attractive. Despite being older than me, she caught my attention, and with every movement, I liked her more and more. We talked for quite a long time and very amicably. She told me that she had been living with her husband for a long 20 years, and during all these years, she had gotten used to his infidelities and adventures. He constantly had young girls who replaced each other as soon as he got bored with them. She was sincere and straightforward. Calmly and quietly, she explained to me that my Lika was just another easily accessible trinket in his hands. She added that very soon my wife would bore him, and then she would become unnecessary to him and most likely would be left without a job. She said she genuinely sympathized with me, but all she could do for me was buy the recording for personal use. She advised me not to go to her husband, as she knew him well enough, and assured me that he would not help me in any way. And public ridicule was useless to me. After talking to Svetlana, I felt significantly better and calmly left the recording with her and returned home. My wife was already home. Only now did I see how much decent women differ from cheap ones. Svetlana was majestic and effective but behaved simply and friendly, smiling. While Lika was arrogant and hypocritical, trying to be high-minded, which made her even more disgusting. In short, I showed her the recording, to which she threw a tantrum, screaming that I was a nobody and would never amount to anything. She called me names and said that she did not dream of such a life, and that with this boss, she would be in chocolate. Demonstratively, she packed her things and left. I let her go calmly, without hysterics and scandals. At that moment, she thought I was a deer who couldn't even stand up for his love. But by that time, I had completely changed my outlook on life in general and on these relationships in particular. From that moment on, a new, bright period of my life began. I started taking care of Svetlana. It turned out that I also liked her, despite the fact that I was just a programmer, and she was a real businesswoman. Nevertheless, we had such a good and interesting time together that neither the age difference nor the social status bothered us. Constantly spending time together, we walked in parks, had picnics in nature, and simply had fast food. And even in such moments, she remained proud, beautiful, and attractive. I felt like a real man needed by a woman. With Lika, we broke up instantly and got divorced quite quickly. Her boss soon dumped her and fired her from her job. She was left with nothing. Svetlana was also in the process of divorcing her now ex-husband. Although it took a considerable amount of time for all the processes to be completed, I calmly endured and waited for my woman. At one point, Her husband wanted to destroy me for the very video that became evidence in court. However, at that moment, Svetlana intervened and threatened him that all his financial machinations would become known where necessary if he did anything to me. After the protracted proceedings, Svetlana remained a wealthy woman, but I am little concerned with financial well-being. I am most happy that I simply met her. We live together and simply enjoy life and each other. After experiencing betrayal and humiliation, we learn to appreciate each other and simple human relationships. Although she practically raised her son alone, and he always had his father as an example, he is a well-mannered and worthy teenager. I managed to find common ground with him almost from the first conversation. Lika now lives in a rented room and works for pennies. She tried to reconnect with me, and when that didn't work, she started telling everyone how she used to make fun of me. I still can't understand her. Everything has long since calmed down, and it no longer bothers me. Life itself has put everything in its place, and it has become clear who is who. She called me a nobody, but she herself has turned into a nobody, for whom nothing more will shine in life. Well, if she doesn't find another rich daddy, although this well-being will only be temporary. So, unintentionally and unwillingly, I managed to take revenge on the lying cheater for everything I went through.